The night the world stopped being ordinary began with a silence so complete it felt like the world was holding its breath. Gelsenkirchen was asleep, the winter air sharp on the skin, lights dimmed in the rows of tidy houses that lay like quiet sentinels against the dark. Only a few stars dared to shine above the city, their pale glow flickering through the haze of cold. In the distance, beneath the hum of sleeping streets, the Sparkasse Bank stood still, a fortress of glass and concrete, its doors shut tight, its vaults silent as graves. Kai Schubert watched it from across the empty parking lot, his breath forming small white clouds that disappeared before his eyes. He felt a tightness in his chest, a rhythm of hope and fear tangled so closely he couldn't tell one from the other. For years he had wrestled with this night, counting every step, every possibility, every moment when doom might overtake him. Tonight, he told himself, everything would change. He wasn't a criminal by the ordinary definition. Not like the novels or the movies. He was a man shaped by loss, by promises made in the quiet of a hospital room, by the unbearable weight of watching someone he loved slip away. His daughter, Lena, her eyes so bright despite the tubes in her arms, had whispered to him once, "You'll fix everything, Papa." That promise had become a scar on his soul, a persistent ache. And when life stacked bills and deadlines in despair upon him, that ache turned into determination, not the noble kind, but the desperate, blinding sort that pushed him here. He pulled the hood of his jacket closer and tested the cold metal of the crowbar in his gloved hand. His partner, Bram, was already at the far end of the parking structure, checking the timer on the rented van. Bram's face was drawn, already marked by regret, yet his eyes were animated in that way only those who have nothing left to lose can be. They had met years ago in a cafe, strangers brought together by shared stories of hardship, of watching life strip away comfort until there was nothing but raw survival. Bram's voice had been the first to nudge Kai toward this audacious plan, wrapping it in logic and possibilities. "No one gets hurt," he had said. "We take what's already forgotten in these boxes, and we walk away." Kai wasn't so sure he believed it. He was sure about one thing: Lena needed help. That help was expensive, and the vault held belongings that could buy time, maybe even a cure. Time was all Kai wanted. The garage door hissed open, and Kai slipped inside, the cold concrete walls closing around him like a shroud. The air smelled of dust and old engines. His heart thudded so loudly he was afraid it would betray him. Each step forward felt like a step into a future that might or might not exist. At the vault door, Bram crouched, setting up a complex drill that hummed with potential. Kai watched his friend's hands shake slightly. The machine roared to life, spitting sparks that danced like fireflies in the dark. Kai closed his eyes and forced himself to breathe slowly. In these final moments before entry, fear felt alive, whispering doubts into his ear. But beneath it was a steady current of something he hadn't felt in years: hope. Fragile, flickering, but real. Hours passed in a blur of metal and sweat and heartbeats counting quietly against the clock. They worked in silence, speaking only when necessary, their breaths sharp in the cold vault. Outside, the city rested, unaware of the drama unfolding beneath its placid surface. The wall gave way at last with a metallic groan. They were in. Rows upon rows of safe deposit boxes stretched before them, tiny doors that beckoned with secrets, with the weight of other people's lives carefully stored. They had planned for this moment so many times, yet now that it was here, neither Kai nor Bram spoke. They moved with calculated precision, opening box after box, sorting through jewelry, heirlooms, stacks of cash, each revelation a mixture of triumph and guilt. Some items they passed over, untouched, heavy with personal stories they couldn't bear to disturb. Then came a box that stopped Kai cold. It was unremarkable at first, a plain metal door with his own name scratched into it. His breath hitched, his fingers trembling as he entered the number he had found weeks earlier in a packet of forgotten papers hidden in Lena's room. He wasn't sure why he had kept those papers, or where the memory had come from, only that something whispered they mattered. The lock clicked open. Inside was a journal. Worn leather, pages soft with time. Kai recognized the handwriting instantly, his own, from years ago when he used to record stories for Lena at night, hoping she'd remember him on days when she felt afraid. He picked it up, cradling it like something sacred. His eyes blurred with tears. Bram looked at him, confusion and concern warring on his face. "Kai." But Kai couldn't speak. The journal opened to a passage he had written on a night he barely remembered. "To my daughter, when the world feels heavy, remember that love is a strength no storm can take from you. Beneath it, a drawing of Lena's smile, bright and unbroken. A sob caught in Kai's throat. This wasn't just a list of numbers and promises, it was his heart, laid bare, a reminder of love that existed long before this desperate plan. The room around him seemed to fade, the wall of steel and cold concrete dissolving into something warmer. He sank to his knees, clutching the journal, tears carving silent tracks down his face. Bram stepped closer, his voice hushed. Kai, we need to keep going. But Kai shook his head. He couldn't. Not after this. The theft that had seemed like salvation now felt hollow. If his own past held this reminder of love, if even in the darkest days he had written words of hope for his daughter, then perhaps there was another way, a way that didn't begin with stealing from others. He closed the journal and placed it gently back in the box, sealing it with trembling hands. Bram stared at him, incredulous. You can't just walk away, Bram whispered, eyes flashing with desperation. We've come too far. We can, Kai replied, his voice raw. We have too. Bram's face twisted, and for a moment anger flared in his eyes. But then something softened, the tension in his shoulders easing. He looked down at the scattered treasures around them, then back at Kai. What about Lena? Bram asked, doubt and pain intermingling in his voice. She deserves life, not stolen life, Kai said, his gaze steady. I thought this was the only way. But I was wrong. They left the vault quietly, each step heavy yet strangely light. The night air outside felt brighter now, the cold less suffocating. They returned the tools to the van, the hum of the engine a gentle reminder that the world kept turning, even after moments that felt like endings. Kai thought of Lena, her laugh like sunlight through glass, and wondered if she would understand. He hoped she would. He hoped she would see that love sometimes means letting go, even of the plans forged in fear and desperation. Days later, as the news of the attempted break-in spread like wildfire across the world, investigators struggled to make sense of what had happened. The vault had been breached, yet almost nothing was missing. Police stood baffled before empty or untouched boxes, unable to fathom the motive. Rumors swirled of amateur thieves, of clumsy execution, of divine intervention. But no one knew the truth, that one man had chosen mercy over madness, that love had guided his trembling hands back to the surface. Kai walked through the hospital doors clutching the journal to his chest. Lena's eyes fluttered open at the sound of his footsteps, her weak smile radiant in the sterile light. He sat beside her, careful not to disturb the tubes and monitors, and opened the worn pages. I brought you something, he whispered. Lena's gaze softened as she recognized the handwriting. You wrote this, for me. Yes, Kai said, voice thick with emotion. Every word. She reached for his hand, thin fingers curling around his. Then you didn't have to do anything else, she said softly, her voice fragile but certain. Tears gathered in Kai's eyes, not of sorrow this time, but of gratitude. In the quiet room filled with the steady beeps of hope, he realized something profound, that love, when genuine, transforms the darkest plans into light. He had sought to save her with money and daring schemes, but it was presence, honesty, and shared memories that truly healed. Weeks passed. Lena's health improved, steadier with each sunrise. And though Kai still carried memories of that cold vault and the choices made within it, he no longer felt entangled in regret. The journal remained by Lena's pillow, a testament to promises kept not through theft or cunning, but through the courage to choose love over desperation. And in the quiet of their apartment, where sunlight pooled on the floor and laughter returned like a long-lost song, Kai understood that the smartest heist in history wasn't the one that made headlines. It was the one that stole back his heart from the brink of its own despair and gave it back to a daughter who still believed in light.